Once again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Again, depending on where you are, and all of you watching at home, our fans, our members, our contributors, our supporters, everybody. And if you're just watching this by mistake or some friend of yours invited to come onto our channel, we welcome you to the African Messenger channel. Thank you very much for your support, because even by watching, you're supporting our message, and we really do appreciate your support in many different ways. And to begin this time around, this round of talk, we just want to say not only thank but shout out to the our youth groups that are kind of gathering together now in the community here. Youth everywhere are coming together, bringing their support to one another and trying to advance, things that are related to youth, bring about issues and have a conversation about them. It's really, really important that we have those, because they mean a lot to the community and to the youth. And so for that, shout out to the Somali Youth of Oregon organization. Shamsa, you're doing a great job, as well as Kamar and Abdul Razak. You guys are awesome. You're doing a great job, and we want to encourage you here at the African Messenger to continue doing that, because for a long time it seems like the voice of the youth hasn't really been heard within the community. But now it seems like the youth, the new generation, is waking up and saying, we don't want anybody to do things for us. We're going to stand up. We're going to do things on our own. We're going to start things. And this is something that we want to see a lot of. I want to also shout out to Fatuma for the Somali Bantu youth as well, and for the youth council. That is really a great thing to come together. For the Liberian youth, you guys are doing awesome. Jerian, you're doing great too. For the Burundian youth, the Rwandese youth are getting together all the time, performing cultural dances, getting to recite history, and teaching each other some of the things that the adult were reluctant to teach them, or even kind of like supporting each other. It's really important. You guys know that you have our full support, and we thank you, and we want everybody to start understanding and kind of helping these. Again, thank you very much for returning to us, to the African Messenger. We really appreciate all the support. We want to thank again our sponsors, U.S. Bank. Thank you very much through the Make It Happen contest. Perleso Col TC. We thank you as well. Enjoying Cafe, Sonia, Miss Sonia Dam too, and the family. Thank you for the support you've been showing the African Messenger. We really do appreciate. And if you're out there, you know somebody who'll be willing to support us, please do give them contact. Let them reach us, because we think what we're bringing to the table is really important, especially with the emails, the support, and the people really interested in coming back and telling us, we want you to have this discussion. So this morning I spoke to someone, a friend called, and he was going through some difficulties, some financial difficulties, and this is the reason why I'm bringing this up. But I'll tell you that later on. Is because this person wanted to go to school. So wanting to go to school, and being by themselves without getting any advice or anything. They saw that money was available, and so they decided they were going to take a loan, because we know with financial aid comes student loans. I mean, you could choose and click and say, I am going to take the loan. And then they tell you you're going to pay later on. I mean, it's like when you're done with school, it could be 4 years, it could be 6 years. And for anyone who doesn't know, it's always like, oh, this is interesting, it's great, I'm gonna do it. Especially for newly arriving kids who are kind of coming to the country, still brand new to the country. It's tempting, to see all this money out there. Like, even if it's $1,000, $2,000, or $3,000, it's really tempting to see it and to want to take it, to want to sign up for it. Perkins loans, you have bank loans, you have all kinds of loans, and on top of that, you're still gonna get envelopes later home that send you can get another, a private loans or something like that. It's really tempting. Like I say, they offer you from, like, $5,000 to $30,000. It's tempting. But what we don't know is that once you're done, especially if you're going into measures that aren't gonna get you into the department right away, you're really setting yourself up. You're setting yourself up, because when you're done with your 4 year degree and you have $20,000 in loans, I mean, that's like a lifetime of paying. Because one, maybe you did history. Maybe you studied something else. And I'm not discouraging anybody from studying what they enjoy. I think everybody should be able to study what they want to study. But what I'm saying is, as you take these loans, which you don't have to take, by the way, but because people don't understand and they just go to see with what's on the paper and they say, oh, this is money that's out there. It's not free money, but they make it sound like it's free money. But most people don't know the system. They don't know how hard it is. And so they fall into the trap. And so this guy fell into the trap. He ended up taking the loans and now he's finding himself into some difficulties. And this is where I'm going with this, especially a lot of young people here. If you're going to take the money for graduate school. It's really important. Try to exhaust some scholarship, but take the money for graduate school. If you're going to take the money for graduate school, no matter what measure you're measuring in, it's really important. It's important that you get yourself an education. It's important because it gives you some kind of value out there. Education is not everything, however. I'm not going to say just because you get an education that means success in your life. Not necessarily, but it's an important thing to have. It's like an insurance. It's a paper that's there. You can go and do other things, but as long as you know that is there in some ways, you always have that assurance there. So if you're going to take the money for graduate school. But you need to understand this. Even if you take the money for graduate school, you need to make sure that you are using that money for school. Don't take the money for graduate school, the loans, and then you take a lot of loans. And this is there as well. Again, like recently the loans have been about up to $20,000 a year. You get $20,000 a year. You're probably gonna use half of that to pay your school if you're going to a public college. And people fall into a trap. Instead of thinking about how do I make this money work for me, either take enough to pay my school or I take a little more for something different, something else that you're kind of thinking about. But don't take the money to go and buy yourself a BMW or Mercedes Benz. Look, this is not your money. It's not free money. It is money that you're going to have to pay later on. You need to be smart about how you're going about living and using the money and investing into it. And it's really, really important that the kids, especially the kids, understand that. And some people make a mistake and say, maybe they won't be able to track me down. Maybe this is going to happen. Maybe I'll be able to do all this. And don't stop living in the maybe world because that does not exist. You need to understand is you get the money, you misuse the money, you don't graduate from school. You are becoming a slave for the rest of your life. Okay, you're not gonna be able to pay that loans. It's gonna ruin your credit. It's gonna ruin your family life. It's gonna ruin everything you ever know. So it's really, really, really important that you understand when you take this money out. First of all, you need to go to school and finish your education. You need to pay and finish your education with that money. You may struggle later on in life, but it's a good investment because you're investing in you. What I'm saying here, what we're saying, we're advocating for, is for young people who are going to take all these loans. And they take the loans and they misuse the money. They take the loans and start getting all these vacation trips, like going to Disneyland, going to Hollywood, buying yourself all these kind of things, renting a nice apartment. But it's only for a short period of time. Because when that money is not multiplying, you bought a BMW, you know what? The maintenance of the car itself is gonna kill you to begin with. And the sad part is you would see people doing that and they're only working for minimum wage. And sometimes they don't even have a full-time job. But they're just going for that. It is something you need to break. It's a cycle. You don't want to be into that. If you have to really borrow the money, make sure you're borrowing the money for the right cause, for the right reason. You borrow the money, you go to school. You borrow the money and use it to better yourself. You borrow the money and use it to make yourself better with education. Don't borrow the money because you want to show off, because you want to show somebody something. Borrow the money because you want to buy something, because you want to take your friends on a trip. Because when you're done, when it's said and done, when it's really said and done, you need to understand that those friends aren't going to come to help you. You're not going to call that airline or that safari tour to say, I want the money back. And you're going to take that BMW you spend $15,000 on. You go to the dealer back, they're going to give you $5,000. And that if you like it. So you need to understand, this is really, really important for you to understand. You borrow the money, make sure you're getting the exact amount of money. Don't borrow the money in your undergraduate. I mean, like, really seriously, no matter how tempting that is, do not borrow money in your undergraduate. Try to get scholarship. Most of the time, financial aid is really is enough to pay for your loans. I mean, your tuition. And don't tell me, oh, I don't want to live with my parents and stuff. Don't make that as an excuse for you to get the money, to borrow the money. You can have it. I'm not saying don't have it. If you really want to have it, have it. What we are saying is an advice. Do not take the money that is going to become as enslaving to you. So instead of, say, $30,000 or $40,000 when you're done in terms of loans for graduate school, you will find yourself owning 80,000 bucks, with your master's degree. And there is no guarantee you're gonna get a job. Or you graduate with a major that really isn't gonna get you a job right away. That you're gonna struggle getting a job. For example, I see a lot of people taking all these majors. A lot of them, we've all been through that. You do philosophy, you know. It takes time. There's no such a job. You got to go on to the next level, PhD level, to be able maybe to teach or write about PhD philosophy or things like that. If you graduate with a philosophy, and I'm not saying don't do philosophy. You need to understand me well. What I'm saying is this: if you do a major that I mean, it's gonna be extremely hard to get a job, and then you're borrowing $30,000, and by the time you finish your bachelor's degree in philosophy or in history or in other things, studies, you don't have that job right away. Do you see how hard it is gonna be? So you need to either borrow the money when you get into graduate school and project yourself. And don't borrow the money for the sake of borrowing the money, or just borrow the money to go and waste it somewhere. Borrow the money because my friend bought a nice car. I want to get a nice car. And this is an easier way for me to get that nice car. Don't do it that way. Or borrow the money because you have some other things. I've seen people do all kinds of things. And at the end of the day, people are crying and suffering. And this is the thing you need to pay attention to. You don't want to set yourself up into that situation where you're going to find yourself in a really hard situation you can't get yourself out of. You don't want to find yourself in a situation you're crying day in and day out. That you wanted something so badly, but you misuse it, and you find yourself really nothing happening in life. You don't want to set yourself for something like that. So if you're going to take loans, get student loans in graduate school. I am not advising for anyone to take loans in undergrad. I am saying don't do it. Don't do it. No matter what, don't take loans in undergrad. I know what I'm talking about because I've seen it. It's not a good idea. It's not a good idea strategically. If you're going to take loans, if you are going to take loans in graduate school, either make sure you're taking the right amount of loans, just enough to pay your studies, or you are taking loans a little bit extra for some good reasons. And make sure that as you take those loans, you are going through graduate school and actually graduating. Just say take it for the sake of taking it. Take it to make sure you graduate. Do not take student loans and start applying to other things, to buying yourself the nice car that's gonna really just lead you into ruin financially. That you are gonna be, I'm telling you, you're gonna be slave for the rest of your life if you think that way. So as you go through your education system, you need to think and think hard and think carefully, because you want to make the decisions that will help you build yourself and get better. You don't want to set up yourself for something that would really ruin your life. Again, thank you so much for all the people that continue to contribute, for all the people continue to sending email, for all the supporters out there. We really thank you and we welcome you. We want you to continue coming, to continue supporting us, to continue giving us your word and sending suggestions. And we guarantee you we're going to continue broadcasting this and bringing them up. And we invite you to come to our channel, the African Messenger channel on YouTube. Make your contribution. Let your voice be heard. And please help spread these videos. We want them to go to people and help people. That's the whole idea behind it. Is to help our community, the new generation, take on some of these tasks that have seemed to be harder to solve and make them better. Because together we make it better. And when we start thinking better and start thinking about bettering one another, then we become better. And when we become better, everybody benefits. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. This is Mr. Gloria from the African Messenger saying peace to you.